Okay, let's talk about the simulation hypothesis. Last class, right, we saw, Descartes' kind of skepticism left us in a place where, we might not even know, we might be at the mercy of an evil demon, and all we might know is that we exist and we're a thinking thing. But how do we get outside of our head? How do we get to anywhere else? There's a modern version of this problem, known as the simulation hypothesis, right? So we're going to talk through that one today. Um, Basically, the idea here is the same kind of worry that Descartes raises, right? Is well, what would happen? How do you know we're not right now in a really elaborate virtual reality simulation, right? Um, Surely, right? Like if we could run a perfect simulation of the world at any moment in time, we probably would, right? There's lots of value in doing that. We already run simulations, for all sorts of purposes, right? We do it for entertainment purposes, right? We have Paradox interactive games, The Sims, Civilizations, MMOs, so there's lots of things that there's a lot of value we already get out of making the best possible simulations we can, right? And surely future generations are going to want to do the same thing, and they're going to have much, much more sophisticated computing power than we do, right? Like it's not that far of a stretch to imagine a near future time when we can do a virtual reality that is indistinguishable from the world that we live in now, right? So surely advanced civilizations will want to and probably will be able to create sophisticated simulations of right now, right? And they would very likely be able to create simulations of the past, right? So it's definitely at least possible that what we're experiencing right now could be like an elaborate virtual reality simulation, right? And then here's the simulation argument, and this comes from Bergstrom. Um, he says, look, advanced civilizations would want to create a perfect simulation of 2024, and they'd want to create a perfect simulation of all of you. Again, that makes sense, right? There would be all sorts of scientific reasons to want to do something like that, right? Like it'd probably be useful to be able to, simulate the world, at the moment of rising fascism in North America, that might be an interesting time to understand. You might just want to do it for entertainment purposes, right? Or maybe there's some other reason you'd want to simulate the world at this moment in time. There's billions of reasons we could think of why somebody would want to do that. So, hey, it's at least possible, and people probably would have the desire or the intention, the desire to do that. It's also highly likely that advanced civilizations would have the power and the knowledge to create, this kind of a simulation, right? Again, we can make really sophisticated simulations already. It's not that far out there to imagine, with increases in computing technology and whatnot, that it would be at least possible to have the ability to do this, right? So if we take those assumptions on board, right, there'd be useful purposes for doing it. So somebody would want to do it, and somebody likely could have the power and knowledge to do that. Once we accept those things, then the following kind of argument shows up, right? We should accept at least one of the following claims. The chances that a species at our current level of development can avoid going extinct before becoming technologically mature is negligibly small. Almost no technologically mature civilizations are interested in running computer simulations of minds like ours, or we should accept we're almost certainly in a simulation. So here's the argument, right? One of the following three statements is true. Given the possibility that a advanced civilization would have the knowledge of how to create a elaborate simulation of right now, would have the power to create an elaborate simulation of right now, and would have the desire to do so, right? And we accept all those, right? It's reasonable to think an advanced civilization would have the means, the desire, and the knowledge of how to do that, right? So if that's the case, well, here goes the argument. One of the three things has to be the case. Maybe every advanced civilization dies out, right? They go to war with each other. They nuke themselves. Maybe an asteroid hits them. Their computers destroy them. Something happens, and so the possibility of a civilization getting to the point where it could create something like a sophisticated enough AI that it's likely that we are right now merely people in an AI simulation is ridiculously small, right? Because civilizations get wiped out. So that's possible. Second possibility is that advanced civilizations would just have no interest in running computer simulations of minds like ours. That seems the least likely of these, right? There would be all sorts of reasons why you might want to do this. Maybe you just want a museum, right? Maybe you just want a simulation of, this moment in history and every other moment in history, just so people can go visit. There's tons of reasons why a mature civilization would have an interest in running computer simulations of right now. But if you don't accept two and you don't accept one, then the only option left is that we are almost certainly in a simulation right now, right? And you think about that, why would you say that? Well, once we can make really elaborate simulations like this, right? Like where it's like a virtual reality simulation where it's indistinguishable from like the real world, a world outside of a simulation. Well, why would you create just one, right? So you've got like one base world where, you would create billions, right? Trillions of simulations of possible realities, right? Maybe you want a simulation for every year of human existence, right? Or and again, we do the same kind of thing, right? Like think of how many computers have the Sims installed on them right now, right? Across the planet. And now, if every one of those copies of the Sims was an elaborate enough simulation that the Sims themselves couldn't tell that they were fake and couldn't tell that they were in a simulation, well, if an advanced enough civilization is capable of doing that, right? It was capable of building a simulation where the NPCs in it or the computer agents in it were indistinguishable from their own perspective from like somebody that wasn't part of a simulation. And they could have that running on every single computer in their civilization. Well, the amount of possible simulations is astronomical. And then the possibility that you're in a simulation right now, as opposed to sort of like a non-simulation, goes up astronomically. It's way more likely in that universe that this right now is a simulation. It's a virtual reality thing, and you are nothing other than a virtual reality character, than it is that you are in a physical space as a flesh and blood human, the way I guess we typically think we are, or something like that. So that's the argument, right? That's a simulation hypothesis, and so the big challenge is, I guess, how do you get out of that? How do you know that you're not in a virtual reality simulation right now, or are you? Have a good one.